Welcome back to Gaelic Games Fan TV. I'm delighted to be joined here by Jason Keelan from the Loaf of Bread podcast for a preview of this weekend's football championship action. We will also be looking ahead briefly to the two hurling games a little bit later, but obviously we'll be focusing on the football championship action. It's the final day of the group stages, the final day of the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship group stages, and of course there are some absolutely cracking games to discuss. You've got Mayo versus Dublin, which of course is always not short of drama. You've got Galway versus Armagh, Derry versus Westmeath. Will it be the last game for Mickey Hart as Derry manager, or will he be able to salvage something? And plenty more to discuss along the way. I suppose, first of all, Jason, the last game of the group stages. So you feel like this weekend is really when the championship kind of really properly starts? Because after this weekend, we'll know who are through to the quarterfinals. We'll know the teams that are going into the preliminary rounds. And then it'll be knockout football, and then there's no second chances. So you feel like this weekend now is really where it clicks into gear. You would hope, anyways, from a football championship perspective.
Yeah, definitely. For a lot of people, I think it's been very, very mixed. There's still the whole debate over three teams getting through in a group. The GA, of course, argue that it's not so much a knockout as it is a seeding kind of a section of the championship, which fair enough, that's their view. I think other people will probably see it as it makes it less entertaining when there's three teams getting through. Now, from a Westmeath point of view, we're quite happy with that, so we don't mind this year. Anyway, we'll see where we are next year. But yeah, you're kind of hoping for, I think everyone's hoping for a bit of a spark in the championship in this round, particularly when there's games with so much on the line. It's kind of a time when maybe having a third team going through is actually beneficial for a bit of excitement, particularly like us and Derry, and then a couple in the other group as well who are kind of, sort of, playing for their season basically. So yeah, we kind of want a bit of a spark this weekend, even if it does mean three teams getting through out of each group.
Yeah, absolutely. There is plenty of debate about it, and whether it is the right way for three teams to be going through, I'm not entirely sure. But at the same time, it does make for every game this weekend. It does have some sort of significance and fairness. And I suppose we'll start with the games in Group 2. These are the group table provided here by @GA League Tables on Twitter. Make sure to check them out when you get a chance. So you can see there, Dublin and Mayo are both already through with 4 points, but of course the first place position still needs to be decided. And then Roscommon and Cavan will be playing each other as well. So look, we'll start with the Mayo and Dublin game, obviously taking place at Hyde Park in Roscommon. I suppose before maybe we preview the game, I was curious to ask you, like, what's your favourite Mayo Dublin moment? Because I was looking back there, like, this is going to be the 12th time that Dublin and Mayo have played each other in the championship since 2012. There's been a whole host of mad games, obviously replays, draws, absolutely everything. And of course, this game is actually going to be the first one outside Crow Park as well, which is interesting. But in terms of like a memory between Dublin and Mayo, what would stand out for you?
Oh, geez. Like, even as someone, I lived in Dublin I still work in Dublin. I lived in Dublin for like 10, 11 years. I lived through, I think my first year living in Dublin was the 2011 All Ireland. So I'm fortunate to be at a lot of Dublin games. I'm trying to think of, like, there's a lot of stand-up moments. I value every time that Mayo get beaten by Dublin, mostly because I just can't take to Mayo at all. Now, to be fair, I don't know, am I going back further again? Kieran MacDonald's beautiful point that he scored at the outside of the left into the hill. One footballer I can deal with from Mayo. I don't know, his son is coming through. Kobe is an absolute wizard of a man up alongside that young Oisin Lynch fella as well. I can't, like, the goal from the throw-in during the COVID one, the like 9-10 second goal, that was outrageous. Yeah, there's no team bar Dublin, I think, could do that against any team, let alone Mayo. I think, yeah, that's probably a standout, because I remember I think it's just also the deadly silence of the stadium and everything that just made it kind of memorable in some ways, in a weird way. But I know you as a Dub probably have thousands of good memories against Mayo.
Yeah, we don't have too many bad ones. Obviously, there's only been 3 defeats in my lifetime anyway to Mayo in the championship: 2006, 2012, 21. So yeah, like if I was to look at the best moments, I actually think last year's moment was really good. Like being on the hill, I remember coming into that game. Dublin hadn't been great. Mayo were flying. I nearly fancied Mayo coming into that game, to be honest with you. So to actually beat them as comfortably as we did was a standout moment. 2017, obviously, as well, was probably like, you know, the absolute pinnacle in terms of games. 2016 was a weird one. Obviously with all the own goals and everything else, a little bit bizarre. But in terms of this game being outside Croke Park, like obviously being in Hyde Park in Roscommon, suppose obviously a ground that Mayo would be fairly familiar with. They've obviously played there twice already this year in the championship. Like, does that give Mayo a good chance? I mean, it's not a home game necessarily for Mayo, but it does, you know, it's obviously better than playing them in Croke Park, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll make a wild amount of difference. Like, it's never recent times when Dublin have been playing outside Croke Park, it hasn't seemed to make any difference to them anyway. They tend to play their way regardless of whether it's a narrow pitch down the country or whether it's, you know, in Croke Park or Parnell in the league or the O'Byrne. It doesn't really matter to Dublin. I think people make a big, massive deal, particularly in the media, about, oh, you know, we're bringing them out of Dublin and it's like this, you know, some sort of voodoo thing that they're playing on them. But it's not going to make any difference to them. Dublin will still come out. They might not have to play in fifth gear. I still think they'll be relatively comfortable against Mayo. Mayo haven't. I don't know. Like, Mayo are good. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just not. I'm not entirely convinced by them at the moment. It could just be the fact that it's still not at that stage of the championship where Mayo and Dublin tend to kick into gear big time. They're sort of still a little bit going through the motions. Dublin are, you know, sort of whipping teams. You know, Cavan got the slaughter the last day. So I don't think it's going to make much of a difference to Mayo playing in the GA's version of what is halfway between Mayo and Dublin. Their geography is obviously not that strong. So Hyde Park it's not a bad venue. It's not a great venue either, but I don't know if it'll make much odds. I still fancy Dublin, I think, to power through them. Mayo's defence, it's not been terrible, but at the same time, I think Dublin have just way too much power to not steamroller them a little bit in the forwards. Dublin forwards are brilliant to watch. They really are a joy to watch when they get going. Obviously, they haven't been 100% either, but they're still racking up scores. Their defenses, they've only conceded in the 20s. You know, they're comfortable at the moment, and that's exactly it. Say where Desi wants them to be. They don't want to be making headlines just yet. It's a little bit early for that just yet. They'd be happy to tip along, as I think they said. I don't know, it was James McCarthy or someone kind of said that the Leinster Championship is their training session for the year, and it's when the group stage kicks in that maybe things start to get going. So yeah, it's probably Dublin. I would reckon it's Dublin to stroll past them, maybe.
Yeah, plenty of comments flowing in here. Sean says, to be honest, I don't think 3 teams should go through, but more to play for in Dublin Mayo, because whoever loses doesn't have to play next week. And also says 2012 in regards to, I suppose, the best games and everything else. That was one of the good ones, in fairness. I remember being at that. Gaelic Games says, where is this game? It's in Dr. Hyde Park. A2 says, am I going? It won't be, unfortunately. I'm going on holiday actually the next day. So I have an early flight to Castor on 6:30, 7 o'clock. So it would have been probably too much. Would have been cutting it a bit close, I think. And knowing my luck, cars would probably break down and everything else. So we probably won't have to do it. Gaelic Guy says, you couldn't look past Dublin. I see it thumping Mayo 14 points, Dublin 3-13. Yeah, it's hard to really know where Mayo are at. Like, they haven't really clicked into gear, you would say, so far. Like, they've been very overly cautious from watching them play so far. I think maybe what happened last year, like, there was an argument they went too strong in the league, sort of fell flat obviously around this time last year, you would say, actually. So it's kind of hard to know really where Mayo are at. Like, you obviously have Ryan O'Donoghue who's doing his thing. Killian O'Connor's coming back in the side. Tommy Conroy's been struggling a little bit, but again, it's like, are Mayo serious all-around contenders at this stage? We don't really know, to be honest with you. I think most people would say they're probably not, but like if they can put in a big performance here, obviously that would change things.
Yeah, if they could put in a performance, but of course, we've seen them over the years putting in performances and then not backing it up with another performance after that. I suppose the All-Ireland defeat is probably the typical one of that, where really they should have, broken the hoodoo, the All-Ireland a few years ago. Couldn't get over the line in the end. So, yeah, I'm not entirely convinced by them. Like you said, I don't think they've shown that they're contenders yet. If you're basing it on form, they're probably not quite there yet. But at the same time, they have so many good players. And Ryan O'Donoghue, as you said, is a real standout, a real star. They just, I don't know, maybe there's a case for them to put Aidan O'Shea back in full forward again, and let him be that link man. Because when he does that, they've actually been more entertaining nearly to watch, because he gives another option as well, and he's great at laying off the ball, and the lads around him tend to benefit an awful lot more. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to go under the radar a little bit. Maybe it's a different approach from Kevin McStay, which would be interesting. But I don't. They don't convince me as a team who, if they beat Dublin the next day, that they'd waltz out then, and whoever, Cork or somebody, wouldn't beat them. They just don't convince me just yet. Maybe the Hyde Park thing could work in their favour. I don't particularly think it will. I think Dublin are clever enough. If it was against another big team, maybe, who weren't as systematic and weren't as ruthless as Dublin, maybe. But I think Dublin are far too clever to buy into any of this kind of thing, really. It's ironic, actually. I see Sean O'Malley commentating. The guy who's getting married on Saturday, Sean O'Malley. So I'm hoping that's not the same guy that I'm going to his wedding on Saturday.
Yeah, look, he's keeping an eye on you, maybe.
Yeah.
There we are. Yeah, that would be quite the coincidence there. A2 says, being unconvinced by Mayo is probably a good thing for them. We've fallen into the trap of the Mayo for San hype train too many times. And Sean says Mayo will beat Dublin Sunday and then lose a qualifier to a mediocre team. And then Sean O'Malley says here, Hyde Park is a leveller for this fixture, but I think Mayo don't have the squad for the firepower to go 9 yards with Dublin like they used to. And A2 says Mayo winning and losing to Cork in a quarterfinal would be classic. Yeah, it probably would be, in fairness. Yeah. And is there a thing as well where like there might be a bit of shadow boxing maybe in this game? Like obviously it isn't a knockout game. Maybe neither side will want to give too much away. Like fair enough, there is that element of you'll be out again next week if you lose. But like if you lose, you're guaranteed a home fixture anyway next week. So it's not like you have to travel away, and you probably realistically, like probably the best team maybe out of the third place teams might be Derry, but we'll get onto that a little bit later. But like, could there be a little bit of a shadow boxing a little bit here? Sean also says here as well, different guys, so you're off the hook.
That's all right, yeah, because the Sean O'Malley that's getting married, his wife to be is a Nihan Ashling, the sister of the bride, Dublin's future fullback. She'd just be on the team a fair bit. So I was hoping that wasn't the same Sean O'Malley. He's got other things to be prepared apparently. So shadow boxing, I don't know if either team are really up for that either. I think they will want to. It's got to the stage now. It's game 3. You want to put down a little bit of a marker, just enough to let people know that you're serious and that you're there. And for Mayo, it's probably more important than Dublin, because everyone knows what Dublin can do. I don't think everyone is, as you said, is as convinced by Mayo just yet. So maybe they'll want to put down a bit of a marker. I don't see it being a shadow boxing kind of game. I hope it's really not, for the sake of football, because the game is kind of already dying a death as it is. It could do without a round 3 fixture in the group in a shadow boxing game. That's the last thing anybody needs, really. And I think it's very hard for Dublin to go out and play like that. I don't think it's a system that is ingrained in them to go out and try and what would you say, deaden a game, particularly against somebody like Mayo. Like, they'll want to go out and prove their point and just let everybody else know, yeah, we're still there, we're just ticking along, but maybe it's now time to go up from maybe first gear to second gear. Just enough, not to overdo it. I don't think they'll annihilate them, but I think they'll be comfortable enough and just kick enough points. Couple of goals, they'll definitely get goals. Dublin goal kings. I think they're the most threatening team for goals I've seen in a long time. But yeah, I don't think it'll be shadow box, and I hope it's not. Jesus, it could do without less of that now. It's boring enough as it is, at times without having two big teams like this going at it. But I think Dublin to be comfortable enough in the end.
Yeah, no, I would think so as well. Like, I think in fairness, I think you're spot on as well in saying that it's not really in Dublin's remit. Like, they don't really ever kind of like, could they hold themselves back in reserve a little bit? Maybe so, but could they rotate a little bit? Maybe, but I still think, look, they will certainly go for it. What are you thinking points margin then for Dublin?
Well, if you say, like, if Dublin did rotate, given the fact they're, true, I don't think the week off matters. I don't think Dublin would really care too much of that to play next weekend again. It wouldn't phase them in the slightest. And you rotate lads in Dublin, you're bringing on lads who want to get on the score sheet as well, who equally will think, oh, it's a chance for me to be in the team now for knockouts. And, Dublin aren't exactly like devoid of players who can kick like 5 or 6 points, off the bench. So I think Dublin by somewhere between 5 and 8, 5 to 8 points. I think comfortable. It won't be like a Diarmuid McConnelly last minute free off the ground type thing, to win the All Ireland or something. Or O'Gara or any of them. It'll be fairly comfortable. I think 5 to 8 points.
Yeah, I think I'll go with a 4-point win, 5-point win as well. Like, I think we'll just grind them down, I think, and it probably won't be the most entertaining game. But I could see Dublin just about getting over the line in the end. Yeah. The other game in the group is Cavan against Roscommon. This game is taking place in Longford, so it should be interesting to see how this one goes. But yeah, a draw would be enough for Roscommon to make it out of the group. Like, you feel like really when this group draw happened, like, whatever about Roscommon, maybe they would have fancied a cut off of Mayo, maybe, but they would have both been targeting this game right from the get-go. And I think even Davy Burke said that, in fairness. So yeah, all or nothing for both of these two.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Cavan that Paddy Lynch got injured so early on in the season. Like, it's really no Lynch, no party, as I said, I think before. And in something, it's a more, it's kind of a more interesting game to watch in many ways, because of what's on the line for both of them. One is gone, one is going to get through. Davy Burke obviously will have his players well up for this one. He's been fairly vocal since day one about, not having had a full training session and all that blah, blah, blah that goes with it. I don't know what Raymond Galligan will make of how things are going. It's been very disappointing. I think the Dublin performance would probably have disappointed him a lot, I would say, to concede so much. They should be a better team defensively than what they've shown, but I think the injury to Paddy Lynch really destroyed their campaign entirely, and it's completely derailed. But as you said, this is their version of an All-Ireland final, really. So they will be looking to take the slightest win that they can get. They'll take a 1 point if it means they win 4-3 at the end of the game. They don't really care. This one is literally about the result, and performance goes out the window because it is a knockout game essentially. So I'd be curious to see if Cavan bring that spirit that they have on the day, even without their main marksman. Roscommon have to go in as favourites, given that they don't really have a massive injury list or too many problems to deal with, and they've already given Dublin a decent go. So the advantage should be with Roscommon, you would have to think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like Gaelic always says here, Cavan Roscommon, in my opinion, is the more interesting game pay attention to. Yeah, look, it is knockout. So like whoever loses will be gone. And obviously if there is a draw based off of score difference, it will be Roscommon who go through there as well. And yeah, like as you said, without Paddy Lynch, that's such a tough one really from a Cavan perspective. And I actually don't think Roscommon have been too bad in the groups. Like they got beat 12 points by Dublin, but like that game was 3-4 points going into the final sort of 10 minutes. I actually thought Roscommon played well enough, and against Mayo, maybe a few decisions went against them. So especially with Cavan's injuries, like it would be hard to look past the Rossies here.
I would, yeah. And it's, yeah, as you said, it's that Dublin, the gallop, as you say, at the end, that they tend to make the scoreline look much more convincing than maybe it was for 67 or 68 minutes. So I think Roscommon will take heart from that. And yeah, Mayo, it's probably a little bit frustrating, I think, to be a Roscommon fan at that game, because they probably felt like things completely went against them at certain points. Whereas Cavan really have so little positives to take out of either game, really, that they're the ones who people will write off and say that, it's Roscommon's to lose, and which it is. And as I said, the injuries have just really not helped. It's been Cavan are kind of like almost like Man United this year, injury just completely changes the way things should be, and tricky one for Raymond Galligan now to get over. It's been an awkward kind of start for him in his managerial career as well, so he'll be hoping for better fortunes. I think even if they go out, he'll certainly be looking to rebuild for next year already.
Yeah, I think the main thing really from a Cavan perspective is just not to be on the receiving end of a hammering, really. Like I think if they lost 6, 7, 8 points, I think there'd be an argument then that the season has ended on a really flat note after what has been a very good year for Cavan. Like they were very competitive in Division 2, obviously beat Monaghan, nearly beat Tyrone as well. Like they were never going to get anything from Dublin. Mayo was always going to be a tough game as well. But I think if they went out and got beaten quite comfortably here, I think there would be there would be some disappointment. But you're going with Roscommon anyway for the win?
Yeah, I think so. I think this could be nearly more of a lower scoring shadow boxing game than Dublin Mayo, because it's just, at the end of the day, the result will go down on paper. People will forget whatever happened for 70 minutes and it'll be resigned to history. So it's literally whoever comes out on top. And I think it's the fear of losing as opposed to the desire to win might stifle this one a little bit. Like it could be a 9-8, it could be an 8-7, it could be 11-10. Like it's, I would say Roscommon maybe by 3-4 points, just enough to nudge it. If there's goals in the game, Roscommon will run away with it, but I'll go with Roscommon by 3 or 4 maybe.
Yeah, I think I'll go with a 3-point win for Roscommon as well. Gaelic Guy says it is gutting for Cavan without Paddy Lynch, but Roscommon are performing better at the right time. Back in the Rossies for third, Roscommon 15, Cavan 10. Yeah, I think that's a very good assessment there. Yeah, I suppose we'll have a look then at Group 1 then, and how things are looking over here. So we've got Armagh and Galway, who are already through with 4 points, and Westmeath and Derry have it all to play for as well in Newry. So look, we'll start with the Armagh Galway game maybe first up. Obviously you're a Westmeath man, so I know you're interested to be more in the Westmeath Derry game, but I think, well, actually, to be fair, I think a lot of neutrals will probably be watching that game actually as well. But like this game should be a very interesting game. Like obviously Armagh and Galway, the game 2 years ago was the game of the year, game of the decade. I heard some people called it. Last year's game maybe wasn't so much that, but even at the end, like Armagh obviously won it late on. I think a late Rian O'Neill point, and the scenes obviously in the end with the pitch invasion and everything else. I think that game was in Leitrim. This one is in obviously Markovich Park. Similar scenario obviously to Dublin Mayo. Like the winner goes straight through to the quarterfinals. So yeah, how would you see this going?
Yeah, my friend that I'm staying with here, she's a diehard Galway fan. She revolves her life around Galway GA. She's never married because she's afraid that someone will get in the way of Galway GA. So, but she has sort of looked into it and said that she thinks Armagh are better positioned this year than Galway. And she was down in Mullingar with me, obviously, for the Galway Westmeath clash. And she sort of still thinks the same thing, that Armagh are better positioned. I thought Westmeath did a very good job on Armagh for a long time. We kept some of the big players stifled a little bit, which has been, to be fair, it's not entertaining at all. And we saw it again the last day, but it's been a positive way to keep Westmeath in it. And Armagh kind of suffered a little bit against us. I don't think they expected us to be as kind of rigid as we were. Galway have to be a little bit more, what would you say, not free flowing. They have to be a little bit more energetic than they were against Westmeath. Like if it wasn't for that Ray Connellan error, Westmeath probably would have stolen that game against Galway, and they certainly were, on the better run at the time. Coming to the last few minutes, I think Armagh are better positioned defensively to cut out Shane Walsh and Co up front. I think Armagh's forward line is probably a little bit more experienced and stronger physically than some of the Galway backs as well. They're a little bit more robust. And Galway, obviously, the last day against Westmeath didn't have that Kelly, Comer, Finnerty kind of axis to play off. And it stung them completely. So Armagh, I think, will be the favourites. And I would expect Armagh to get the job done in Sligo. I don't think it'll be a vastly high scoring game. It should have a bit of niggle to it, which will be great, badly needed. I see someone saying the red card fest incoming, which might be the case, possibly, yeah. I think without Comer, Galway are a very different team. Westmeath really, Desi Dolan, to be fair, really took advantage of the fact that they knew he wasn't coming off the bench like he did 2 years ago, or last year, I should say. When we were level, he came off the bench. Galway won by 6. Last week or the week before last, there was no Comer coming off the bench, and it just made a big difference. And I think for Armagh, the fact if he isn't available or able to come off the bench, they look at that as well and think, yeah, this is ours to win. So I think Armagh, too robust, too strong. Cian O'Neill seems to be the reason that Galway are progressing well. I don't think Porrick Joyce is working the wonders that a lot of Galway people are hoping for. Cian O'Neill seems to be the Paul Kinnerk in many ways of that setup. So I fancy Armagh, definitely.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like I think with Galway's injuries, like obviously I don't think they've conceded a goal in the championship, Galway, so they have been very, very strong. Galway, like there's been no doubts about that. Defensively, Sean says no. Comer and Kelly, Armagh should win, and Gaelic Guy says I'm hoping for an Armagh win, and I think we should do the deed considering there are no Comer or Kelly for Galway, and Armagh coming off annihilating Derry. Armagh 115, Galway 15 points. Yeah, like I'd probably edge Armagh. I wouldn't be surprised about a draw as well. Like I think these games have been very close in the last few seasons, but I do think with Armagh's momentum, obviously beating Derry, like a lot's been made about Armagh, big games and everything else, and obviously losing a lot of games on penalties and whatnot. And look, fair enough, Derry are going through their own crisis at the moment, but like you have to remember, Armagh were very, very good. Like Conor Turbot was outstanding, Rian O'Neill, Stephen Campbell, these lads, Ross McQuillan obviously coming back in as well. So you feel like with Armagh's momentum, like they could be, especially if they do get over the line here, like they could be very dangerous from here on until the quarters and the semis.
Could be, yeah. Galway, of course, bit of a distraction this week as well. That Matthew Tierney's brother Enda got married there to Declan Bonner's daughter. So there's plenty of celebrations going on in Galway. I'm sure they're muted enough now, given what's coming up this weekend. But and Matthew as well is another player, I think, who has been a great revelation really for Galway this year. Very versatile, playing in a couple of different positions, quite comfortable wherever he plays. But he is vital to that team to keep the engine ticking over. And they really need him to be going. I get as well what you say about Galway not conceding a goal. Westmeath were never going to score a goal against Galway. And in Connacht, of course, Connacht can be that kind of shadow boxing that you said. It really comes down to fine margins. So this could be the game where Galway really get actually tested for goals because Armagh are more than capable of getting them. So yeah, I think you could be right. I think Armagh will be there. I don't think Dark Horse is a term I'd probably give them like I normally would, because they are much stronger than that. They're not going to just appear out of nowhere, but they'll definitely be thereabouts at the end. They're, as a collective, as a team, they're much more. They look much more positive. I think there's less of the, kind of bull that was going with them in defence and a red card fest. I hope not now, for the sake of the championship. We could do without a red card fest. For going forward, you want the best players to be there or thereabouts at the end. So yeah, hopefully good game, and I still think Armagh will come out on top. The draw, yeah, not impossible, but I'm going to go for Armagh.
Yeah, I think I'll go for a 2-point win there for Armagh as well. I think they should be able to carry on that momentum from the win versus Derry. Yeah, Gaelic Guys says now I'd hope Armagh could push on to possibly make a semi-final if we win this game. Garrett says, don't know what you'll get with Armagh. Would love them to go out and build on the Derry performance, but how many times have we been here before and they've put in a stinker performance? Hope not. Yeah, look, it is a fair point. It's that consistency, I think, for Armagh sometimes that they've been lacking really against the big teams. Dean had a commentary earlier, lads. I would love Westmeath to win, but as a Loud man, a chance of Derry Loud sounds like an unreal game. Yeah, look, it would be quite the storyline, obviously, if it did transport, and that obviously does take us into the other game in this group, Derry versus Westmeath, obviously happening in Newry. I suppose as a Westmeath man, I mean, you've obviously seen Westmeath up close so far this year and everything else, and as you said, like, weren't a million miles off beating Galway. Like, that game was very close going down the home stretch. And funnily enough, if this game was a draw, Westmeath would actually go through on the basis of score difference. So, and obviously plenty of drama around Derry. Like, you feel like it's the last chance really for Derry and for Mickey Hart. You feel like if Derry don't win this game, then will Mickey Hart be there next year? I'm not entirely sure that he will be. So how are you feeling going into this one?
Yeah, to write an article for newspaper there last week on this fixture, and it was a funny one to write, because I was kind of writing from the Derry perspective that I think if Derry are going to win, that they're going to have to play their own football without the Mickey Hart instructions that go with it, because it's so renegade and open to destruction. Like, and we saw it happen a couple of times this year already. They're going to have to, almost ignore the tactics that are given to them and try and play their own brand of football that they're well able to play. That got them to the division title. Like, so the article kind of started off saying it's bizarre that at this stage of the season that Andy McCormick and Ray Connellan are better placed than Brendan Rodgers and Conor Glass. Like, that makes no sense whatsoever. But it's true, like, the two Westmeath lads are flying, bar that mistake against Galway. Like, they've had cracking seasons, whereas the newspaper headlines are around Derry and Glass, throwing the huff for the substitution of one of the Derry lads, and just things been so ragged. So if we want a chance to get out of the group stage into the knockouts, this is the best chance yet that we are ever going to have. The only thing pre-draw for the group stage that we begged for in Westmeath was, please don't give us the same teams again. And basically what happened is we got Galway in Mullingar again, we got Armagh away again, and instead of Tyrone, we got Derry. So essentially we got the same type of draw. So we were a bit disheartened by that, but it's not turned out too bad. Galway was so close, and as I said, bar that pass, it could have been so different. But this is literally, as Dean Brennan said there, this is get the popcorn out. This is the one that Desi Dolan has to change tactics and go for that system that got us the title in Division 3. You have to be a bit more open, a bit more willing to take chances to this one and do what we don't do, which is push up on a kick out. Force them to do this utterly stupid thing that they're doing in kicking long into midfield and having no backup plan as to what happens when we lose the ball, other than let the goalkeeper try and run back as quick as he can and see if he doesn't get a lob from 40 yards. So, like, this is there for Westmeath. If we don't win this, we only have ourselves to blame. There's no excuse for not winning. It's bizarre to think that this is where Derry are now. It makes no sense. Like, I can't remember a team capitulate from winning Division 1 or winning a title to be All-Ireland second favourites to now having to beat Westmeath to survive in the championship. So it's got the box office written all over it. We have to win. I think we can. We don't know how to play for a draw, so we have to go out to try and win it. And yeah, we have the forwards. It will be the end of the road for a chunk of this Westmeath team as well. If we get knocked out, we are going to lose Ronan O'Toole, our all-star from the Tailteann. We're going to lose David Lynch, Andy McCormack, Kevin Maguire, possibly John Heslin. And yeah, there's at least 7 of the Westmeath team who are leaving and or travelling. So this is their All-Ireland final, really. They have to get out of this group and we have to win this game. Simple as that.
Wow, yeah. And you nearly feel like everything's been building towards it, really, then, like winning the Tailteann Cup, obviously getting up to Division 2 and everything else. Gaelic Guy says Westmeath should play for the draw, in my opinion. I don't know how you really do that, to be honest. But look, if it finishes as a draw,
we take it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But how you do that, I don't exactly know. But A2 says it's going to be a terrible slog for Derry. Westmeath are dogged and will make it a battle. Sean also says if Louth beat Derry in a preliminary round, it would be cinema. Look, it could be a Louth Westmeath derby potentially if Westmeath pull it off. Yeah, that'd be interesting. All right, Garrett says Westmeath absolutely capable of beating Derry. They look lost at the moment. Poyle on the agony, and D-Wall says Westmeath to win. No doubt. Look, it is a massive chance, and as you said before, like you feel like if Derry play the same way that they played against Armagh, against Donegal, then they should be able to. Westmeath should be able to do damage, obviously on the counter attack and everything else. But surely Derry won't play like that again, as you said, because it was absolutely suicide football, like leaving that amount of space in behind time and time again. And I think Joe Brolly nearly put it. I wouldn't agree with everything Joe Brolly says now, and I don't really agree with all the abuse he's given Mickey Hart, in fairness. But one thing I probably would agree with what he said is the matter of like the tactics are just absolutely all over the place. And you feel like, it'd be weird because I don't know how the players would just ignore his instructions, and I think that would probably go against them later in the year as well. But at the same time, they can't play the same way again because, as you said, like they will get burned. Yeah,
they will. I'd be on the same wavelength as you with the Joe Brolly stuff. It's a lot of it is what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of wanting the camera still on and wanting the spotlight. But he is right with the tactics thing. I don't like the lads could go against Mickey Hart. Like he is apparently, I don't know obviously for sure, but apparently is literally that A2 guy's just taking the words out of my mouth. He is literally apparently the most stubborn man in Gaelic football. I've been told that by quite a few people. So the chance of him changing tactics are probably slim and none, because if that's his system, he seems the kind of guy who, you play to what I tell you. It's like Ten Hag at Man United, consistently keeping the same system, even if it's not working that well. But if the lads went against his tactics and played the way that they know that they can play, and they did play in the early months of the year, then it probably is more in their favour to do that. But whether that goes down well with Mickey Hart or not, it's kind of almost like a player revolt on the pitch, which would be quite unusual. But I think they have to. I don't see how playing that same suicidal way is going to change things. The only way they'll get away with it is if Westmeath don't have their shooting boots on, which we do go through games where we don't have them on and we panic a little bit in situations where, like, it's 3-on-1 with the keeper and suddenly we don't know what to do because it never happens us, that kind of thing. Like watching the Armagh goals the last day where they're running from inside their own half 1-on-1 with the keeper, like, is utterly insane. And only should happen like the 90th minute of a soccer match when you're 1-0 down, not in a GA game in the 20th minute. So I just hope for Westmeath's sake that they don't panic, because it's going to be a very weird situation to find. The attackers won't be used to that kind of thing, having that much freedom and space if they win the kick out. So it comes down to whether Mickey Hart is stubborn or not, basically. If he's stubborn, Westmeath should win that game. And that seems so weird to say. When first I said that out loud, that seems so weird to say that. But I can't believe we're going into a game against the Division 1 champions as 50-50, and not, we haven't been written off, and most people are actually tipping us to win. Like, that shows you how far Derry have fallen. It doesn't say anything about how we've risen to, great levels or anything. We haven't. We're still the same middle of the road team, really. Derry have just imploded, and it's making for an interesting season in the GA. It's kind of one of the stories of the season. So, yeah, we'll take another 70 minutes of Derry suicide. It'll suit us absolutely grand.
Yeah, Gaelic guy says nothing is right for Derry, and this is the end for Mickey Hart and Derry in the championship. Derry 16 points, Westmeath 2-11.
I'll take
Westmeath break through to the preliminary round. So, yeah, what would you be reckoning then? Are you going to back your own Westmeath for this?
Yeah, that's a good scoreline, actually, that Gaelic I picked there, because I fancy Derry and conceding goals seems to be a given. Yeah, or scoring goals is not a given. So 2-11-16 is not a bad scoreline. I think I'll go Westmeath by 1 or draw. Like, it could be a draw. We won't know how to play for a draw, but it could be a draw or win by a point, one or the other.
Yeah, I think I'd still go for a Derry win. You might hate me for it, but I think it's going to be one of them. Right. It's going to be one of them games, I think, where Westmeath have the chances to win. They have the opportunities, probably don't take them, and it might be one of them kind of classic moral victories where everybody's praising Westmeath for a wonderful performance, and the Derry doubt is still there, but Derry just find the way to sneak it. But yeah, look, it certainly will be interesting to see, and I think that game is on GA Go as well, so I'll be looking forward to watching it. Looking at Group 3 then, so this is how things stand here. You've got Cork already through with 4 points. Donegal and Tyrone with 2 points, and Clare are the only team as of now, anyway, to be confirmed to be out of the championship. So, I suppose starting off with Cork versus Tyrone. Cork obviously worked their magic against Donegal with, I suppose, a famous win there, like stopping Jim McGuinness's men. Any chance they do it against Tyrone, you reckon?
They could. It was a very tactically clever performance against Galway, or against Donegal, I mean. Little bit out of the blue, little bit unexpected. Great tempo to Cork, which was not something I would have said too often in the recent past. Could they do it against Tyrone? Yeah, they could. Tyrone aren't exactly, breaking down barriers and anything. Their, scoring rate is not great. Defensively, they're just getting over the line in games. I think I can't remember the table exactly, but they're only like +5 or 6 or something, fairly minuscule. So yeah, Cork could, like, if they'd have to be firing on all cylinders, get everything right, and Tyrone need to not fully turn up on the day. Good for Cork, and I know Matthew Hurley, our friend as well, will testify to some of the players coming through as well for Cork, which is great to see, because it feels like forever that Cork have been plodding out the same players most of the time. There's no like star name coming out of that team in a while, whereas there's a couple of young lads coming up that seem to be given a bright future for Cork, and maybe they could tip past their own. I suppose the fact that 3 of them are through along with Donegal kind of probably doesn't help the game either, because you couldn't see either of them really going at full tilt. I know there's the lure of a week off or whatever, but the fact they're through maybe just takes a little bit of the edge off it, which is a pity for Clare, because when they came to Mullingar in the league, they looked really, really impressive, and I thought these guys could actually do well in the group stage, and it just hasn't materialized. So yeah, it could be a good game. It might not be either at the same time. It's one of those kind of awkward ones. This is where the 3 teams been through thing maybe doesn't help the system, but you can't apply it to one group and not to the other. Westmeath and Derry could both be out and have a nothing game, and these two, could be playing for something. So it's just the nature of it all, really. But I still think Tyrone are just too experienced. Maybe am I wrong in saying that?
Yeah, no, I think Tyrone probably do have like the better players overall, like especially with Dara Canavan obviously inside. I was actually just looking back at the group there as well. Actually, there is scenario where Clare could actually go through, but Clare would have to beat Donegal and then obviously hope that Tyrone beat Cork as well. So, like, would Clare beat Donegal? I think that would be a massive. I think that would be the shock of the championship, to be fair, if it actually happened. But like, the thing is with Cork is that, like, every now and again they pull off a big result, they pull off a big shock. We obviously saw them do it against Donegal. I don't know though, but I feel like every now and again they'll pull off a shock, but then a shock win will be followed by a poor performance. And I don't know, I've just got a funny feeling Tyrone are going to turn up and put in a bit of a statement here. Like, I was looking at the bookies odds. A lot of them have Cork as favourites, which is interesting as well. Now, whether that's because a lot of people are just lumping money on Cork because they see this as a very viable game that Cork could win, obviously, in Tullamore. Would have been a double header, obviously, as well. But you'll be back on Tyrone.
I think so. Yeah, I think there's enough there in experience and everything else to take Cork. And yeah, Cork, fair enough, they got a very good result and they are a rising kind of side and slightly improved team maybe from years gone. But Tyrone should have enough to win comfortably enough, if maybe by 5 or 6, maybe even a little bit more possibly on the day.
Sorry, there. I forgot
to say, I don't know if it was me or you.
Just about remembered. Well, actually, to be fair, it's the streamer. It actually does notify you, so otherwise I probably wouldn't have knew. But Gaelic guy says Cork won versus Donegal, but wouldn't surprise me if Tyrone won this by 10. However, I see Cork going straight through into the All-Ireland quarterfinals. Tyrone 19, Cork 19. Yeah, do you know what? I think a draw actually isn't a bad shout in fairness, but I think I will go with Tyrone. I think I'll go with a 3-point win there for Tyrone. And just in terms of Donegal Clare, like, this feels like probably one of the more easier games to predict this weekend. Like, you'd surely imagine a Donegal win here. Like, just looking at it, it's in Castlebar. Interesting enough looking at it here, but yeah, you'd imagine it'd be a fairly comfortable win for Donegal.
Yeah, I don't think Jim McGuinness will let the same thing happen twice against the Munster side like it did the last day against Cork. And to be fair to all the talent that Clare have, it's probably still a little bit of like Italy in the Six Nations, where it's great improvement, but it's just not improving enough as maybe some of the bigger teams. So great that they've brought through the likes of Ike Maguire, Gavin Murray, who's a Westmeath man as well, was playing here for a long time and has now made his way into the Clare midfield as well. Very good footballer. They were kicking some scores in Mullingar that day. I know the wind was at their back, but geez, they were firing scores over from all distances. It was great to watch, like even it was against us, but I don't think there's enough in Clare just yet. To be fair to them, it's great to see them making strides and putting it up to Kerry and Munster and everything as well. But how many did Donegal win by? Yeah, that's probably a fair way to put it. How much will they win by? I think it's season over for Clare realistically. Even if the mathematics aren't, I think it's a case of how much will Jim McGuinness have bet the lads in training after the Cork game and how much they win by. So yeah, Donegal by 10 plus.
Yeah, they probably built another wall around the training camp or something maybe after what happened against Cork. But yeah, no, you would expect a fairly convincing win for Donegal, and obviously there could be a scenario as well, like if Tyrone win, Donegal win, then it basically goes down to score difference. So like, and that will be between first, second, third. So I'd imagine Donegal will definitely want to get the group sewn up and won. Looking at Group 4 then, so this is how things stand over here. So you've got Kerry and Louth, who are both already confirmed to be through. Kerry with 4 points, Louth with 3 points, and Monaghan Mead still have it to battle out for the third position. So yeah, I suppose it starts with the first game, Kerry versus Louth. Obviously, this was an absolute hammering for the Kingdom last season. We did see Louth go to Croke Park and like be very defensive, get a lot of men behind the ball. They made that game a lot more competitive, maybe than what people expected. And to be honest with you, I couldn't see Louth playing any differently in this game. Like I think they're going to get every man behind the ball. They're going to be inside their own 45. because basically how it will work is if Monaghan beat Meath, and it will basically go down to score difference for who finishes second. So, but all that aside, you would imagine a Kerry win, and you would imagine it to be fairly comfortable.
Yeah, I think so. Just trying to remember what was on your table. I think Louth have like +10 of a scoring difference. Monaghan's is -10. So yeah, Louth have been a great success story, and Ger Brennan, to be fair to him, is really, he's made them look like a very interesting kind of team for a side who, maybe aren't well renowned or whatever. They got the scalp over us last year in the championship with Mickey Hart, but I like the fact that Ger Brennan's in there. He's bringing that Dublin experience to him, and it can only be a positive for Louth, really, in the long run. Like, this might be the start of something very positive for them if they can get another Sammy Mulroy through, or somebody else alongside him, more than just one target man. In saying that, I think you're spot on. Louth will have to shut up shop, restrict the Cliffords, restrict O'Shea, restrict everybody. Joe O'Connor in midfield for Kerry, I think, is a great footballer and is very underrated, and he could, just simply dominate the midfield, and Kerry could kick on and win by a lot. And as you said, if it comes down to points difference, Louth would like to stay where they are and not concede too much and let Monaghan slip in. So yeah, I still think a Kerry win. I don't think Kerry will go easy on them. Obviously, it's not really in their nature, but if Louth are clever enough, they could restrict it to, a 6 or 7 point defeat, possibly. But if Kerry get going and get goals early, good luck to Louth, because they could get murdered. It could go either way.
Yeah, I think the opening 10, 15, 20 minutes, I think, would be huge, really. Because you saw with Kerry against Meath, like they started strong and then completely blew them away. A2 says, don't take Louth lightly here. Kerry will win, but it won't be easy. Louth will score goals too. Dean says, Louth to win, catch Kerry cold, scoring goals for fun. I wouldn't be against a Louth win here now as well. In fairness, Gaelic Guy says, not a beating, but Kerry get the job done. Kerry 15 points. Louth 11 points. Like, it is interesting. Like, Louth, I think Louth have scored the most goals in the championship. I think they've scored like 26 or 27 goals. Well, actually, league and championship, if you count them obviously both together. So look, they could do a bit of damage there, obviously, on the counter attack. But as you said before, like, you'd have to imagine Kerry would get the victory. But again, though, I could see it being nervy, because like you saw Kerry against Clare, it was only a couple of points in it. Kerry against Cork, that was fairly even as well. So I could see this being like a 3-4 pointer, but at the same time, again, I wouldn't be surprised if you check this on Scorebio or whatever, and you see, Kerry 10, 15 points up. You wouldn't exactly be surprised. But yeah, I think we're both going to go for a Kerry win there. Meath versus Monaghan. This is obviously for the third place. Obviously, Monaghan do have a point on the board. They obviously got that late draw versus Louth the last time out, and Meath will obviously have the chance to get something. The game's obviously taking place in Breffni Park in Cavan, so maybe that will represent the chance for either one of these two. But yeah, what would you be thinking? Like, Monaghan haven't won a game since they beat ourselves at the start of the league, which is mad to think. Meath, obviously, I suppose we're fairly miserable the last time out versus Kerry, but yeah, what would you be reckoning here?
Funnily enough, I've kind of been following the Colin O'Rourke story a little bit. I would have been a big Colin O'Rourke fan, even though he's obviously a Meath man. It's kind of been disappointing, because I commentated on a couple of their games in the O'Byrne Cup, and when I interviewed him after for the stream, whoever it was, that he was very upbeat. And in the league as well, I was reporting on a couple of them, and I thought, he's bringing through like the two Hogans. He's brought through a lot of young lads, which is fantastic, and it's what he's renowned for doing as a former school principal as well. But they've been very, very abject so far. Like, the table, I think they've only 18 scores in the two games, which is not. It's not enough to win you one game half the time, let alone win, anything. But at the same time, I still it's weird saying this about Meath because obviously Meath Westmeath, we've no real rivalry. Like Westmeath are useless compared to Meath in history, but just there's still a bit of a rivalry. Yet I still like Colm O'Rourke and I like what he's trying to do with Meath. I still think there is a performance somewhere buried in that young Meath team, and Monaghan they're not exactly shooting the lights out. So my kind of, I suppose, peculiar prediction maybe is that I'm going to go for Meath to beat Monaghan, and I think Meath might get through, and it might be the end of the road for Monaghan. So yeah, I'm going to stick my neck out and say Meath. I'd like to see them get through. I think for football, it would be good to have someone like Meath through. We are very used to now, and fair play to them for Monaghan with such a small population to be consistently, up there at the top table most of the time. And for me, that would be a great thing. And for Colm O'Rourke, it would be a great thing. And I think for football in general, the season needs, Louth might, be in there, Meath being in there as well. Like, I think it would just make for a bit of extra interest for people, the neutral fan as well. Monaghan, it's great, but, they haven't progressed as such from this, constant, doing really well. They haven't gone that step further. And maybe Meath under O'Rourke with a youthful side might just nip this one. So Meath just to win.
Yeah, I think it's make or break really for Colm O'Rourke, because you'd imagine, they knew they were going to be in these group stages since before the year. Obviously won the Tailteann Cup and everything else, so they had all year to prepare. Got beaten quite comfortably by Louth. Fair enough, they got beaten very comfortably by Kerry. But yeah, I feel like if they weren't to win this, or even a performance, I think would be huge from a Meath perspective. But with Colm O'Rourke, I'm not too sure if he's the best coach, to be honest with you, from looking at things tactically and everything else. But look, in terms of bringing through young players, you can't deny that. I actually think maybe if they're if Colm O'Rourke could get another job in the county board or something like that, I think maybe he'd be a perfect man to sort of be the head of the setups and everything else. I think he wouldn't be a bad man there, or even in the backroom team or something like that of future management. I don't think would be a bad shout. But as you said before, Monaghan are definitely there for the taking. There is a lot of vulnerability about them. I think it was more so Louth throwing the game away than Monaghan coming back, obviously with the late mistake and everything else from the Louth keeper. So it's more than there, but I don't know. I think Monaghan have been here before. They've won these games. And I just think there has to be a kick out of Monaghan at some point. And actually, you know what? You could argue this is, both managers probably fighting for their lives here, actually.
Yeah, possibly. I think, as you said there, if O'Rourke, was to go, I think the position for him is probably in that, what would you call it, development role or something in the county. It's probably is more kind of where he is. But I suppose at the time, the Meath job was seen as the most poison of chalices, and nobody wanted to take it. So he was kind of sort of shoved towards it in many ways as almost like the savior of Meath football. So I do like to put the lads there in the chat saying neither side really deserved to get through, which is probably fair, and probably again, 3 teams getting out of the group probably highlights that as well, that was always going to be the case in a couple of groups, that there was going to be an undeserving team. Maybe perhaps you'd say Meath or Monaghan probably neither deserve to get through, but one of Westmeath or Derry is going to go out in another group. That's just the nature of this seeding, in inverted commas, that they call it. So I still think, I do agree. I think there is a performance in Monaghan. I don't necessarily think that they have it in them, though, to pull out the bag. And I think if when Meath played with the shackles off a little bit, I can't remember what game I'm going back to a couple of months ago, they looked all right. And they looked like they could nab a few scores as well. And their forwards, there's a couple of the forwards, the young Morris lad and a few others, they're quite nifty. There may be just as that little bit of inexperience. So if they took this as their sort of, last game of the year and just go for it, you'd never know. I am still going to stick with Meath. Monaghan will probably destroy them now because I said that. But I'm still going to stick with Meath just to get through for more of a nostalgia factor than anything.
Yeah, Gaelic says, if Monaghan lose, what do you think about Vinnie Corey, if they should consider his future after all the progress last year? Hard one, really. They did get to an All-Ireland semi-final last year. They had a very good season last year, beat Tyrone, obviously, in the championship as well. But yeah, like if they were to lose, like I mean, it'd be one win all year, and it'd be what, like 8 or 9 games without a win. So it'd be it'd be very hard for them to I suppose keep them around. But be interesting to see what happens. But yeah,
any sign of a Conor McManus replacement in Monaghan? No.
There we go. Yeah. Maybe he could be the manager. Who knows?
Yeah, he could be.
Yeah, it could be. Him versus Raymond Gallagher on the sidelines would be very interesting in Ulster. But yeah, like there was a few young lads knocking around there for a while, but I don't know. It does seem to me maybe have gone quiet ever so slightly. But yeah, I think I will go for Monaghan though. I'm going to back them narrowly. You're going to back Meath, but we shall wait and see what happens. 4 games in the Tailteann Cup, obviously the Tailteann Cup quarter-finals, and the first one we have up here, Sligo versus Limerick. Bit of a resurgence for Limerick recently, 3 wins on the bounce, having previously lost the last 12. But going away to Sligo in Markovich Park, like this will be a difficult one. You'd have to fancy Sligo here.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Sligo should have just a little bit too much, and their general Tailteann Cup experience should kind of stand to them a little bit. Obviously, Sean Carabine been the kind of the name, I suppose, on the Sligo team. They have a couple of good players, Sligo. Maybe they don't get some of the credit they deserve. A couple of athletic kind of players as well. Limerick, yeah, as it's great, as you said, to see a bit of a resurgence as well in Limerick football. But I think Sligo should have too much for them here.
Yeah, I'd back Sligo as well. Like as you said, it is nice to see Limerick back winning games, and obviously Jimmy Lee. Like I think there is a bit more positivity maybe now around Limerick going into next year. Like they obviously have Danny Neville back. I think Ian Corbett's back in the team as well. But yeah, you have to back Sligo. Gaelic Guys to Sligo comfortably. 122, Limerick 16 points.
I'd love to know what money an accumulator will be on all the Gaelic Guys' exact scores that he has, because they're bloody good. Like,
yeah, who knows? Maybe, look, we might have to maybe take note of them one day or something, just for the crack. But here we are. Fermanagh versus Antrim, maybe might be a little bit closer this one. Like Antrim, I suppose they are a side with they actually probably have more Tailteann Cup experience really than Fermanagh. Like Fermanagh probably in the last few seasons disappointed around kind of this stage, or preliminary rounds and everything else is taking place in Brewster Park, so that'll obviously be a big benefit for Fermanagh. But look, 2 Division 3 sides, obviously Fermanagh relegated from Division 2, so yeah, look, you could a very hard one to call. I could nearly seen this going to an old cheeky penalty shootout, to be honest.
Could be, yeah. It has the makings of a game that just screams a draw. Like if it was a soccer match, you just say 0-0 written all over it. And yeah, it's hard to know what to make of either side really. Fermanagh, not the side that were entertaining maybe in Croke Park those years ago with Sean Quigley taking on Stephen Cluxton. Like that sort of fire went out very quickly. I know Paddy Quayle, the former Fermanagh goalkeeper, is a good friend of mine. He's currently on the plane home from St. Finian's GA in Vancouver back to Fermanagh. I don't think he's overly amused by a lot of the Fermanagh football this year. In saying that though, Antrim is a potential one for them to get a victory in, and it would be great for Fermanagh football as well. I think Fermanagh to win. I'd love a penalty shootout actually, now that you say it. That would be great crack. I think Fermanagh to win in some shape or form, whether it's in 70 minutes or beyond, but I think Fermanagh just to nick it.
Yeah, Gaelic Guy says, wouldn't be surprised if Antrim won, but I'll say Fermanagh scraped through after extra time. Fermanagh 115, Antrim 16 points. Yeah, I think I'd probably agree with you on that one as well. Like I think the home advantage is the key one here for Fermanagh. I think like being at home and Brewster Park, like I've saw them obviously beat Kildare there this year. They played very well against Meath earlier in the year, so should be a fairly comfortable one for Fermanagh. Down versus Wicklow should be straightforward enough, you'd imagine, for a Down perspective. But Wicklow, Ushie McConville, like to be fair, like he has been able to pull off a few scalps, most notably against yourselves and Westmeath earlier in the year.
Don't mention that.
Remind you, But any chance they'll do it here?
Down should win this one comfortably. We're not big fans of Wicklow here in Westmeath, not just for the defeat, but the the media, all of us in the media who were down there that day, because Oisin McConville was suspended from sideline. The Wicklow team took over the entire press box and kicked all their media and their local media out of it, and that didn't go down well with anybody in Wicklow or Westmeath. So hopefully a down win by 30, 40, 50, 60 points, whatever amount you want there, just hopefully downbeat them. I've had enough of listening to Oisin McConville now at this stage. And I don't think Wicklow are, I don't think Oisin McConville has brought them on a huge amount. That win over Westmeath wasn't a massive shock to a lot of us, because Westmeath were 6 days previously had beaten down in Crow Park. We're still in celebratory mode because, as I said before in an article, we take our progression in inches rather than miles. So when we take a mile, we go to town on it. So the lads were literally still in party mode and just fell apart against Wicklow completely. So I think Down should win this one fairly comfortably, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree as well. I think it should be a fairly comfortable win for Down. Like, they obviously have massive experience and everything else in this competition. Obviously got to the final last season, I think semi-finals the year before, quarterfinals actually maybe. So yeah, you would be backing them to come through. And Kildare versus Laois in the Tailteann Cup in, just looking there, Tullamore. So obviously Kildare nominating Tullamore as their home venue. So I mean, look, if this was a couple of weeks ago, I probably nearly would have fancied Laois, in all honesty, given Laois's form. But to be fair, Kildare have obviously turned the corner so far in the Tailteann Cup. Laois didn't look great against New York either. You'd imagine there might be some sore legs and everything coming into this. So Kildare favourites, or can Laois cause a shock? I feel like if there's going to be a shock in one of the games, maybe this might be it. But I don't know.
I was as someone who loves the international GA scene, obviously with the podcast, my heart broke when Louth missed that 2-on-1 situation on the keep, or when New York missed a 2-on-1 on the Laois goalkeeper. I just went, that's it, that's the chance gone. Yeah. And sure enough, Laois turned around and won, handy enough in the end. Kildare, yes, they're a strange kind of team. Wicklow just wins surprises again. Maybe Dean Brennan said that about Louth. I'm wondering, is that just Ger Brennan in disguise under a slightly different name, maybe? Kildare should be too good for Laois. Yeah, I'd agree with that. They should. Like, in theory, Laois football obviously have got sister-in-law down in Laois and married to a man on the Laois board as well. So they're Port Arlington have had a fairly rough couple of months after being on a great, run in the county, winning a few titles as well. Laois football's kind of taken a little bit of a step backwards this year. Losing players through travel as well was a big thing for them. A couple of injuries as well, and maybe not the players coming through that they hoped would come through. And I think that's all kind of added up to making a fairly below average season, which nearly imploded against New York. And if New York had won that game, you couldn't have denied them, because when they play that running game that they play in the Bronx pitch on the Astro, it's very good to watch. Now, defensively, of course, they get ripped apart as well, and that's where Laois took advantage, even with 14 men. So Kildare should win by at least 5, if not more, maybe.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like, I think for Kildare, it looks like it's obviously hard to judge. Like, they've come up against a very poor Longford side, Waterford, Leitrim in there as well. We saw how comfortably they got bet by Wicklow. So it kind of is still hard to judge Kildare. I wouldn't be so confident they've turned the corner just yet, but I do think they should come through this and win this by 5 or 6. Just looking ahead to two of the hurling games this weekend. So we've got Offaly versus Cork and Laois versus Wexford in the preliminary rounds. Obviously, Offaly, the Joe McDonagh Cup winners, and they're obviously playing Cork, who were the third place side in Leinster. Laois were the Joe McDonagh runners up, and they're playing the third place side in Leinster. Firstly, is there a need really for these games? I don't really know. In my opinion, I was kind of thinking Offaly win the Joe McDonagh, they win an under-20 All-Ireland. Should just call it a day, really. They're not gonna beat Cork. They're not gonna win an All-Ireland. So is there really a point in them going out playing Cork and Tullamore and probably getting beat by, 20, 25 points?
No, there's no logic to this at all. Like, I don't get the thinking behind it. I don't see how it's a what do they call it, a reward? Like let the lads celebrate winning their tier of the whole point of that competition was to give teams who aren't quite up at the top tier for that season the chance to win an All-Ireland title, which it is. And that's it. Like, when Dublin win the All-Ireland, you don't suddenly throw them in against, the winners of, the World GA Games, or anything like that. Like, it's a bizarre, unnecessary setup. Like, the Offaly lads will have been celebrating, a double All-Ireland success in the last couple of weeks. They couldn't care less, I'd say, about this game. Like, and if Leo O'Connor at the under-20s and Johnny Kelly at the seniors, like, are, if they were prioritising anything, Cork in a preliminary All-Ireland quarter-final was not in the thinking for Johnny Kelly. So, yeah, a strange game. Cork should wipe the floor with them. Like, Offaly won't really care, I would say, too much. So, Cork to win handy.
I think so as well. I think it would be a very, very comfortable win from a Cork perspective. And as you said, yeah, like, I think it's like, don't get me wrong, it's the novelty and everything else of your Joe McDonagh Cup winners and everything else. Maybe the idea was good, but I think Matthew Hurley was even putting up on Twitter like all the results of the Joe McDonagh Cup team since they've come up, and Laois obviously beat Dublin. Like, that was the only time we saw a surprise. And speaking of Laois, like, Wexford have been on the end of shocks and surprises. They obviously got beat by Antrim earlier in the year, got beat by yourselves, Westmeath, obviously last season. But like, you feel like they've learned their lesson. Like, they went out and beat Carlow. They're very good against Galway, probably unlucky not to beat Kilkenny as well. So you feel like really it should be comfortable for Wexford. And again, whatever about Offaly coming in on the back of winning the John McDonagh, but coming in on the back of losing it. Like, I mean, it's kind of one extreme to the other, really. Like,
yeah, it's nearly like a punishment for Laois. By the way, you lost this All-Ireland final that you've worked so hard to get to, and Laois are the better hurlers as a team than Offaly are. It's just they didn't perform well on the day. Offaly are a phenomenal team, don't get me wrong, but Laois throughout this whole thing have been much better hurling. Now, they got annihilated when they came to Mullingar because they decided, I was sitting with the Laois statsmen for that one when I was reporting just for the crack. I was chatting to them and they were like, stunned by how bad Laois were. They lost by, I don't know what, we beat them by 17 or 18 in the end. Like, they were absolutely annihilated by us, which made us look great, which we weren't either. So it's been a strange season for them to lose the final. I think it killed them. Willie Maher, I think, would have been very frustrated at I know the decision for the steps near the end, like, everyone was talking about it, but like, unless you're blind, he took at least 12 steps, so I don't see an issue with it. But strange season for Laois, and this is punishment, literally, like, to be put up against Wexford when you're on the floor after losing the final in Croke Park. Like, you don't want to come up against a team who have figured out what they were doing wrong the last 12 months and have now put most of it to right. It's really not what you need. I don't see any benefit in this at all. I see Gaelic guys picked a few scores for that. I've actually noted all his scores from the chat there. I'm dying to see if any of them come true, and so I can put my mortgage on them all the next day. They're probably they're probably fairly realistic scores. Laois getting 16, Wexford 318. Yeah, Offaly mightn't even get 114 against Cork if the videos I've seen of the celebrations and stuff are anyway realistic. Then 114 would be a fantastic score for Offaly to get, given the nature of the celebrations. Look, it's a waste of time. These two games are literally a waste of time.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. Like, and the fact that I saw that apparently like loads of trains are already booked out to Croke Park for the All-Ireland semi-finals between Cork and Limerick. Like, obviously they do, if they get through, you'd imagine Cork beat Offaly, they play Dublin. Look, you'd imagine they beat Dublin as well, but it's just it is kind of mad, really, that's already happening. I suppose before we finish up in terms of player of the week, bet of the week, what would you be thinking? You don't need to pick one for hurling, just football.
The Gaelic Guy 24's accumulator of of 10 games that I've noted here, which Paddy Power would say would probably put about 6 million to 1 on to get all those exact scores. I think I see it's looking like Derry are still the favourites against Westmeath. Maybe that's the one to back Westmeath on. I think they're playing on the fact that surely Derry can't do that for 4 games in a row. Well, they did it for 2 and did it for 3, so no reason they can't do it for 4 games in a row and play that bad. So maybe Meath against Monaghan might be an outside shout. And you'd love to say Louth to get something against Kerry, but I don't think that's really going to happen. So maybe Meath or Westmeath might be the ones to look at possibly coming out of it, and maybe a Westmeath player to salvage, go one step further than we did last season, and maybe it could be try and think like I don't think John Heslin is going to be player of the week anyway, but maybe Ronan O'Toole is the key to unlocking this Derry carnage and maybe just punishing them a little bit more. So yeah, maybe Ronan might do it.
Yeah, Gaelic Guy maybe has a few more notes to write down here. He says player of the week. My boy said bet of the week, Meath and Westmeath to win as underdogs. Yeah,
I think we were the first team to stop Conor Turbot scoring from play, if I remember rightly. I think he got 2 from frees. That was all.
There we go. Yeah, that's yeah, that's a good sign, I suppose. But yeah, I think for myself anyway, player of the week. Obviously, so many players in action. Like probably maybe would go for your obvious choices in Con O'Callaghan and whatnot. But I think Kieran Kilkenny tends to always have good games against Mayo. And I have a feeling he could really deliver. And yeah, in terms of bet of the week, yeah, if you're looking at the Westmeath win, maybe as a shock. Like if I was a bet man, I probably would go towards that. In fairness, but yeah, look, I suppose we'll go ahead and wrap this one up here. I suppose if anyone's looking to check out your own podcast, Jason, or any of your own work, where can they find it?
Yeah, so The Loaf of Bread is Instagram, Twitter. Generally, have a TikTok. Wouldn't be mad in using that. Just with 2 little kids under 2 and teaching and Westmeath PRO this year for the Camogie. It's hectic enough, but I am in the process of writing a 3rd season for the podcast. The 2nd season, of course, is all the international teams around the world before the World Games. So I'm in the process of writing a 3rd season, which should be interesting. And then if the hundreds of requests came in for the annual Loaf of Bread Jersey World Cup, which is extremely popular. So there was 126,000 votes on it last year. So we're starting that up again soon. There'll be 1,000 jerseys from around the world in, and you'll be able to pick your favorite, and we'll see who wins at the end of. Takes about 3 months to complete, so see who wins that. But yeah, you'll find it wherever it's going. You might find me in commentary maybe before that, but yeah, that's roughly it. Great stuff.
I'll just respond to this comment here. Work mails today going to the Hyde. Won't be, unfortunately. Do have a holiday flying to Miami, would you believe, on Monday morning. Nice. So long flight. Need can't be going up to Roscommon the day before, otherwise I probably won't get back. So but yeah,
Miami's a nice spot.
Yeah, should be good. Although storms there at the moment, so we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But yeah, look, cheers anyone who tuned in. Hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and we will catch you all again.